Hello and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer. Oh, look, it's Nikki.
Hello. Welcome. Hello, Pete Wright.
Hi. Hi, Nikki. This is Techvember.
Techvember.
As coined by Discord mom, Melissa. And I have to say before we start, like the whole idea, I think was it Melissa's idea?
Yes.
This whole Techvember thing, I think it was Melissa's entire idea. And as such, this is the shout out I want to give to Melissa. Melissa is the kind of person who had this idea for Techvember and then did all the work. Mm-hmm. Like, talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Like, Melissa did a ton of work. The whole concept is that we use November to go back through our history of tech episodes that we've done.
Like, we did that
for a long time.
It's a pretty big
history. Not a small history. We did these for a while, we did digital episodes
about once a month,
of the show. Yeah. About once a month, we'd do a digital episode, and we would talk about apps and things we're using and tools and technologies around a certain conceit, I guess, health, healing, email, work, whatever. And she started going back through the list and realized there are a lot of apps that some are still around and doing very well. Some of them are just discontinued, and we have them living in our podcast history. So if somebody goes back to episode 138, they might find that we recommend things highly in some cases that do not exist anymore. So rather than going back through and actually deleting all those things, we thought we would do a couple of episodes of tech updates. So, please stick around for November. This is technically episode 2. We did our whole email thing last week, and we're gonna continue our march to the sea. As we continue talking about tech. Me too. I'm very excited about that. Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com. Get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email each time a new episode is released. You can connect with us on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest at Take Control ADHD. But to really connect with us, join us in the ADHD Discord community. It's super easy to jump into the general community chat channel. Just visit TakeControlADHD.com/Discord. You will be whisked over to the general invitation and log in. If you're looking for more, of course, you can become a patron by way of Patreon. Patreon is listener-supported podcasting. With a few bucks a month, you can help guarantee that we continue to grow the show, add new features, and invest more heavily in our community. And you get a lot of Discord secret channels. That's where the real conversation is happening. It is our entire back channel for communicating with members, and we absolutely love it. And in the right now, it's kind of nice to have a protected space.
Yes.
Because having public conversations on certain other social media networks have gotten kind of dark. Yes. So it's really nice to have this protected space to have these conversations. So we really, really love it. So much great support. So patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to learn more. Do we have any news?
Let's see. Do we have news? Yes, we do have news. Kind of going off the fly here. But I'm going to plant a little seed. Just a little seed.
Okay.
GPS, which is the membership program that I offer at TCA, is a planning. It's all around planning and scheduling and task management and how to use your calendar. It's a wonderful program. Absolutely love it. Believe in it 100%. And we are going to be opening up enrollment soon for the next cohort of people to join us in January. But that's all I'm going to say right now. So I'm just going to plant the seed.
That is a tease. That's a nice seed.
So if people are interested in GPS, check it out, because you might see an open enrollment here pretty soon.
Well, if we know anything, it's that January is going to come up real fast.
That's right.
So
well,
the seed is planted. It's good to start thinking about it.
I'm glad you asked me that question, because I looked at the calendar and said, it's November 15th. I should probably plant that seed. Yeah. It's planted.
That's right. Seed planted. All right. Let's get nerdy.
All right. Let's do it.
Nikki, last week we did almost an hour of a conversation about email. Do you have, has that stuck with you at all? Did you end up making any changes to the way you live with email?
Not only has it stuck with me, but I have referred the podcast to several people to go listen to. Yes, it actually was so helpful. And I think, one of the biggest things that I took away, and I hope other people take away, is that it's okay to archive. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just get it out. Get it out. Don't worry about, anything right now. Just let it go.
Yeah. It's amazing how freeing it is when you just swipe to archive or just move it to archive. It's really, really great. I'm so glad. We have just a little bit of follow-up. We should put in the show notes because I need to jump in and make sure I'm attributing this right. But we posted in episode 214, downtime and finding a recharge with ADHD. We posted Suzanne, community member Suzanne, posted an email to us, The Power of Filters in Gmail, and we just reposted that email in its entirety. We talked about some of these things in our email episode, but I think Suzanne's message actually, it still holds up, using filters and how to use filters to, based on search results, is super, super easy right in Gmail and allows you to essentially create sorted filters that you can then access in all your other email clients, even if you're not using Gmail on the web. So I think it's really, really useful. So that is in episode 214. Thank you again. Now it's been years. When did that come in? This episode was from a long time ago, episode 214, probably 5 years ago, and it still holds up.
That's
so
good.
Thanks, thank you still, Suzanne. This was in episode 324. We did email is not precious and other stress-relieving axioms to save you time. Mm-hmm. That was our episode 324. We talked about 4 email apps in that episode. One was Gmail. We talked about Gmail. And I think Gmail, in terms of an update, they're continuing to try to make the Gmail web app more useful for more people to do more things. Like, for example, the latest feature that is coming, if not completely integrated by the time you hear this, is package tracking in Gmail. So when somebody sends you an email that has a packing number in it, like a tracking number in it, you can then track without having to leave Gmail. It'll just give you the interface that says, here's where your package is. It's in Bozeman now and trucking its way across Montana. So that's one of those things that's really useful, and it's a continued investment by Google into Gmail. It is clearly one of their flagship products, and they're continuing to invest in it. That can get confusing because it's Google, but and they're constantly doing stuff. But that's one of those features that makes Google and the web app, or Gmail and the web app, useful. Even though I don't use the web app, I use Spark, but I'm still accessing, Gmail. Right. So the other tools that we talked about. Edison Mail. Edison Mail is still going strong. And in fact, they are really leaning in on privacy, blocking tracking pixels and domain blocking. Do you know what a tracking pixel is, Nikki?
Well, I can tell you what I think it is from like Facebook ads and things like that, is that
you'll be right. Okay. Go ahead.
So that, you can figure out, like, they have this data. I don't know where it comes from, but they can tell you, like, when somebody has, actually, this is email. This isn't even Facebook. This is email, where they can tell you if they've opened up the email, how long they were on the email, if they never opened it up. So it just gives you, like, the statistics of what's going on in the email. Right.
So for sales email, that's exactly right. And a tracking pixel is generally a 1-by-1 pixel. It's literally a graphic. Like, it's a little tiny graphic. And it's included, and it has a specific unique file name. And it's included with the what's called the tracking code that includes links back to that file name. And when that image is loaded, the image itself lives on the remote server, right? On the sender's server. So when the sender's server gets a notice that you've opened your email and that pixel has been launched, right, has been downloaded, that's the signal that you've looked at this email account or this email that they sent you at this message. The degree to which you take action can then be tracked by the number of clicks you make on any given thing. And all of that bundled together, all of that sort of metadata bundled together creates an image of your interaction with the company and your value to the company based on whether or not you're reading their email. If you never download those pixels and never open those emails, then eventually you may just get dropped from the list, especially because, for smaller senders, if you're on a list and you don't look at the email, it costs them money to send you an email. Yeah. So eventually they'll purge their list of dead addresses. But this is the deal about Edison Mail. And in fact, the new version of Apple Mail built into Apple as of the last, I think, Monterey and now Ventura, tracking pixels are considered by privacy advocates as an invasion of privacy. Yeah. I don't have tracking pixels on paper mail that I get from my mailbox, right? Nobody's watching me when I get mail. Why should that be any different in my email inbox? That's the general case. And so they are looking at ways to block the tracking pixel. So if somebody using Apple Mail, or in this case, Edison Mail, you can turn on this feature to block tracking pixels, and then it appears as if you never read the email. Right? It appears as if this sender sent you an email and you're a dead recipient, right? You don't exist, which is, as you can imagine, damaging to email performance tracking, because then all you're looking at is, did this person click on the link? And if they didn't click on the link, you don't have any understanding of whether or not they read your email. And so this is causing a lot of turmoil. But for privacy advocates, and that's, increasing, more and more email applications are including this ability to block tracking pixels to help keep your email inbox clean. And Edison Mail is a tool that's really, really working hard to do that. So it has some of the best-in-class ability to block by entire domain senders, by tracking pixels, all of that. That's really what they're looking at. Another application that's doing that is Canary. That's another application that is really focused on privacy. We talked about Airmail. We used Airmail for a while.
Yeah.
It was an Apple Design Award winner in 2017. I haven't seen a whole lot of change with it. I opened it up and it still looks very much the same as it did, 3-4 years ago. And so that's, it can be a sign that they got it right. And it can also be a sign that they're struggling a little bit. I don't know, but it's still out there and it's still working. And we also talked about the app Mailbird. And Mailbird is actually a really interesting one, especially in the context of our conversation about Spark. We use Spark. Spark is a wonderful app. It is and has been for a very long time Mac only. But they raced and now have in development in their version 3 a Windows app. So now they're going to be cross-platform. Good. If you're on Windows, you can download a beta right now and start using Spark. We love Spark. Mailbird is the other way. It looks exactly like Spark, right? It looks exactly, but it's been for Windows only for the longest time.
Oh, I see.
And now they are in development of a Mac version of Mailbird that gives you many of the same features. And so it's fun to watch that race kind of head to head. So if you're a Windows user and you want to check out something akin to Spark that we're always talking about, then that is Mailbird is your jam. So we also, in episode 444, Reclaiming Email, we talked about Hey.com. Hey is tries to completely reinvent how you use email. It's all web-based. You have to move. You can't check other email through Hey. You really are forwarding your email into Hey, and it is interpreting your email and trying to apply AI and machine learning and all these things to detect just the important stuff and show you the important stuff and move everything else out of Hey. It is apparently extraordinarily good at triage. So you can see very easily and very clearly what is valuable to you. You can move things that are misclassified very quickly, but it's not app-based, it's web-based, and it's still in very active development. And so, it's such a big swing to move 15 years of Gmail into a new platform that I was not able to make the leap to do a permanent shift to hey, it's fine. And for some people, it's extraordinary. It's not for me. I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I still haven't been able to wrap my head around it. And don't forget, we did do the annual purge, the email purge for patrons. Melissa ran this a while ago, and it is in, for members, it's in the Patreon feed.
Oh, I forgot about that. We should do that again.
Yeah.
Melissa, if you're listening.
We did talk. Yeah. Let's do it again. Why not? We talked about Apple Mail. It is the default mail. It's interesting. Apple Mail is conservative. I don't want to call it slow to evolve, but conservative to evolve. But privacy is built in. I like Apple Mail. I know a lot of people in business that use by default Apple Mail. Apple just offers Apple Mail, right? It's just that's it. It's Apple Mail, or you go to a third party. That is in contrast to Windows. Microsoft offers Windows Mail, which is a solid fine. Like, it's a fine little app, but it is really designed for Uncle Tim. You know, Uncle Tim, he's checking his personal email every day. He likes to get his stock picks and his newsletters, and he's fine. But the challenge for Microsoft is they also have Outlook,
right?
And Outlook is massive, and they are investing so heavily in Outlook as a personal thing too, that going to Outlook.com, setting up your email address, it's free. You can upgrade to Outlook through Microsoft 365 and get a lot of great features. You can access your Outlook email in third-party email clients, not just Outlook. So you can get it in Spark or Mailbird or Airmail or Edison Mail, whatever you want. So you can just do a lot more with Outlook. And I think it's made Windows Mail sort of, it's backseated Windows Mail a little bit. So if you use Windows Mail, awesome.
It's just interesting because I think of Outlook as a Windows, like that's Windows Mail's Outlook. Like I wouldn't even think of Windows Mail as a separate thing. I would just assume that you were talking about Outlook. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, right. Well, and Outlook is so interesting because, and I, we'll talk a little bit more about Outlook shortly, but Outlook is so interesting because it is, Microsoft has changed a lot over the last 5 years, with the new CEO, when Ballmer got out of there, like they have become a software company again, not a Windows company. And that's really a treat to see because they're doing some great innovation, and I think they're smaller a little bit, and they're really, they're doing some really neat things that serve everyone, whether they're using Windows or Mac or whatever. Like they're really doing a lot of wonderful things, and so I think giving them a little attention is not a bad thing. They need to figure out their Outlook versus Windows Mail strategy for sure, because it's a little confusing. And then just this morning, I get this email, this notice from Francesco D'Alessio, who just did a video on the latest announcements coming out of Zoomtopia, Zoom's service. Zoom is coming out with collaboration features, including Zoom Mail.
Oh.
Zoom Mail. I have a hard time saying that.
Zoom Mail.
Like with a straight face. Like, what are we doing, Zoom?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Like, I wonder if they have, because of the pandemic, they have ownership in a conferencing place in the conferencing technology in the market that is, second to none. And, it feels like maybe they're losing the thread of the lead that they have in that space. Just be great in that space. I don't know why we're getting into all this other stuff. I have Zoom Phone, which is their voice over IP service, and I use that just as my, the business line. And I'm thinking about canceling it, honestly, because for me as a small business, I just don't use it. But I can see it being incredibly useful for larger teams to just say, okay, now when you get in, you have your Zoom conference for video, and you have a phone number, voice over IP phone number, so people can call you and switch back and forth and leave you voicemail and stuff. And let's make those services incredible rather than diving into email, which people have
Skype?
Resolved, I think. I do. Microsoft.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Right?
It just, when you were talking about Zoom, it reminds me of Skype. And it was like, it feels like Skype, and I'm sure people still use it, but it feels like that is the album, to the CD. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I totally do. And Skype, it's so funny because Skype still has awesome collaboration and features. I don't know, like you can get Skype phone numbers. You can still all do this. It's now Microsoft Skype and you can get through it in your browser. Like what happened that Skype totally lost
I don't know.
lost the thread to it? Because, it's the same thing that a challenge that Google has with their multiple like options for video calls, right? Like you can do all kinds of different video calls and chats with Google tools, and they're trying to consolidate. Well, is like what is Microsoft's strategy for that? Is it Skype? Should it still be branded as Skype?
Right. I
don't honestly know because we switched from Microsoft over to Google Docs and Google because Google had the most robust collaboration features at the time. I think Microsoft 365 has largely closed that gap, and very few businesses that didn't leave Microsoft are going back because they don't know, right? They made the transition, and these transitions are so hard.
Yeah.
So, Microsoft is super relevant, super resonant. Their tools are great. They work well. They work across platform. And so I'm curious why, what's going on with Skype. Everybody I know, and for us, Skype was the de facto standard for podcast recording. And then it just wasn't.
Exactly.
It just
like stopped. Right.
And because our guests stopped using it. Like we used to have it because every one of our guests used to have a Skype account and we could just give them the Skype ID and they would know how to join a meeting. And then they stopped doing it.
And
like they were
Zoom
like, I don't have Skype anymore.
Was it?
And then it was Zoom. Yeah. Then it was Zoom. So anyhow,
all right.
So that is Zoom. So that's our little update on email. If you haven't listened to the entire episode last week, go for it. And now we go into workplace tech. Oh my God.
Episode 178. That had to have been like what, 2014 maybe?
Yeah. Seriously.
It had to have been a long time
or
ago.
13 probably. Yeah. 2000. So we reviewed, this was so interesting to me that these things. So I have sort of consolidated. We'll do really quick and then I'll talk about some things that have changed. So this is 178, 255, and 168. 3 episodes around tech related to the workplace, getting organized, staying organized. Let's see what happens. Calm app. It's a mindfulness app for
Still
meditations.
Great.
You using
Still
it?
Great.
Still great.
I think it's great.
Outlook. We talked about
Already?
Outlook by Microsoft. Yep, we like it and respect it. It is a solid contributor.
Everybody that knows Pete Wright knows that's a huge compliment, Microsoft, that you're getting this from Pete Wright, who is a born Mac person, so Apple person all over you. So that's a big compliment, and I respect you.
Player recognizes game, right?
Yeah, it's nice.
Game recognizes game.
I
Things
still
3.
use it.
Absolutely, every day.
It. Yep.
OmniFocus. That was me.
Yes. It's interesting about OmniFocus, and I know you probably have something to say because I used it too. Because that was the very first task manager I've ever used. But I do have a couple of current clients right now that use OmniFocus, and it's workable. It is workable.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love OmniFocus. I have a deep, unironic love for this app. And I wish that my context were a little bit different because OmniFocus has an ideology. The OmniFocus team has an ideology that OmniFocus is a single user platform for professionals. And there is no collaboration. And as far as I understand it from their roadmap, there is no plan to incorporate collaboration between other people. And that is the single reason that I stopped using OmniFocus, because I started working with a team and we needed something that we could work on together. And I am of the ideology, like my worldview is I can't have multiple task managers. I will not use one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? If I have 2, I will not use one.
Yes.
It just will get dropped. So I had to drop OmniFocus, and we'll talk about where I landed. I think that's the secret's out. Rescue Time and Time Sync.
I don't remember
Rescue Time
these.
and Time Sync. Rescue Time is an interesting app. It allows you to see, you connect your schedule, and it allows you to see the holes in your schedule and figure out how to better plan and strategize your time so that you can find the holes to do work.
Is it still something you recommend? Is that something?
It's still, I will say it still exists, but it really is a way to automate time blocking. And I I have adapted to not using a tool to time block.
Because you can just do it,
and so
like yourself.
you just do it. Like I don't need a service, and I don't need another paid service to do it. Time Sync allows you to see where you're spending your time, and I have an app called Timing running on my Mac to allow me to do that. It just says, what apps are you using? Where is your time going right now? And at the end of the day, you can look at a report and see how, what apps you spent the most time in. If you spend all your time on certain websites that are not related to your job, you can see, oh, I lost track of time there, and I was looking at coffee makers for 3 hours today. Like you can get
Even
a sense
though
of
you
kind of
can't
what's
buy one.
going on. Right, exactly. So that's Time Sync. But again, the app I use is Timing, and it's not a thing I give a whole lot of attention to. But when I feel like I'm in trouble, like I feel like I'm losing time or not being as productive as I want to be, then I turn on Timing.
So Timing and Time Sync are basically the same thing. It's just whatever you resonate with. Like if you look at the app and you want to do this, like what do you like? Like what?
Pretty much. I think. Yes, and I think the thing about Time Sync is, both of these are pretty Mac focused.
Mm-hmm.
I think Timing has a web interface. I don't believe it works for Windows at all.
Okay.
So I don't have. I think this was a phase, and we all go through phases, and that's okay. All
right.
In 255, we added a couple more apps to this list. I added Alto's Adventure, which is a game. It's not a tool at all, but I still love it. And Alto is still an awesome thing for just, playing while I'm waiting in line for stuff, or, sitting in a concert waiting for it to start. I've gone to a few things. I've gone out and I'm sitting in the thing and I'm alone. I'm waiting for my kids' choir concert to start. And I'm like, I'll play Alto. I still do it. I love it. It's been years and I still do it. Hazel and File Juggler. Hazel for Mac, File Juggler for Windows. These tools are amazing. And I still use Hazel on my Mac nonstop. It's always running. All it does is act on files based on a set of rules. For example, the one that is always running every day. When I record a podcast, I name the file in Audio Hijack, which we'll talk about in a minute. I name that file with the name of the show, like in this case, ADHD, and then space, and then the name of the episode or number of the episode. When I hit stop, those files that are recorded get saved into my Pete audio folder. Hazel is watching the Pete audio folder, and it takes that audio and moves it into the ADHD inbox for audio, which is where you and I share a Dropbox. So I know when I go to the ADHD file, that audio is always there. Like for you and me, both of us, all of our audio is there. And it's all because Hazel is watching for the keyword ADHD in that folder. Hazel can do so much more, though. Hazel can rename files if you want to organize your files. You can look at OCR in, like, say you get a bill that's from Northwest Natural, and you say, okay, Hazel, I want you to read the text of this PDF that is saved in this folder. And if you see the Northwest Natural in the PDF, I want you to rename the file, find the date in the file, add that to the file name, and put it in my folder system to pay the bill. So you can have it take many, many actions on individual files in your file system. It can get a little bit out of control, so I don't recommend you add 100 rules on any given day. But boy, for stuff that you just need to automate without thinking about it, it's super easy. And if you have a computer that's always on, like if your computer is at work and it goes to sleep but is running in the background, the Mac, has a system state where it's sleeping but will turn on in the background just to run automations, very low power mode. Hazel will run in that cycle, and it will take action on stuff that happens when you're away. So if you're on your phone and you get a download of a PDF, you put it in a folder in your Dropbox file system. Hazel's watching that at home. So as soon as that file syncs in your Dropbox system, it will take action on it. And when you get back to your desk, it's been renamed and moved and all of that. So it's incredibly useful and powerful. I'm a huge fan of these kinds of apps, Hazel and File Juggler. So still a big fan. Lumosity is a brain training, one of the many brain training things, right? To keep your brain agile, it sends you games and stuff like that. But I did an episode of What's That Smell where we talked about the value of keeping your brain and your memory sharp as you age. And the best advice that we found from a doctor was like, Sudoku, brain training apps, crosswords, they're all great. I mean, they're fine. But the best thing you can do to really flex your brain as a muscle is to take a position that you feel strongly about and argue the opposite side of that position. Really try to authentically find the opposite side of that position. You're going to help rewire your brain for flexibility by doing that. And it is a multidimensional argument when you try to convince yourself that you agree with the other side.
Oh,
and
that's really
I thought that was really
interesting.
I wanted to make sure that was positioned here because that is better than any crossword you will ever do to keep your brain flexible. Thought that was great.
Good to know.
Pencil by 53. Pencil's been around for a long time. When the first iPad came out, there was Pencil, this app by 53. And you could buy a giant stylus that was the pencil with a soft tip and you could draw on it. And it was not terribly useful for taking notes because you were like drawing with that piece of charcoal. Right. It felt very big. It wasn't very fine-tuned. It is still a wonderful kind of sketchbook. It has been changed and it was purchased by WeTransfer back in 2018. It is now separate apps. They've got paper and paste for different functions within the original Pencil app. And still great, but boy, when the Apple Pencil came out for the iPad, that all but changed that market. And now the Apple Pencil in those apps is extraordinary and just so much better. And so we'll talk again about that, about the Apple Pencil. And of course, episode 168, dealing with kid work. We talked about Evernote. And I think maybe we should talk just briefly about Evernote now.
I would like to.
What is your position on Evernote?
I am struggling. And I'm glad that we're bringing this up because I have used Evernote ever since. Pete tells me what to do and I do it. That's how it goes, people. Yeah. Like, Pete, I trust you with all of my technology. and we used Evernote, a long time ago, just even for our podcast notes. Remember that? That was a long time ago. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that I use. I'm trying to use Evernote as a online filing cabinet. If I am doing research on something or I want to save articles on a particular topic, or even like I'm going to the conference, I'm going to the ADHD conference, any conference that I attend, I usually use Evernote to take my notes. But this is where I struggle. I like Evernote. It works. It's functional. I'm a little bored of Evernote because I've used it for so long that it would almost be kind of nice to have something new. I'm not really sold on the way that I have the organizational hierarchy. I never really go back to it for anything. And so, I'm a little mixed. It's like I have it, I'm using it, but I don't know if I want to keep it.
Well, and I imagine it's because so much of the collaboration stuff is gone. You're not collaborating in Evernote with anybody else, right?
I really am just using it to collect data and to the only note taking that I use is at conferences. Like if you and I are having a meeting, I will write notes on a piece of paper and then I put that whatever tasks are on that piece of paper into things.
In things.
So I'm doing that handwritten. I'm not doing it. So I don't know. I'm stumped.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. I think Evernote went through a very dark period and they lost their CEO and they had some real trouble with application bloat and all of their different, apps for different platforms were built on a different code base and it was very, very hard to maintain. So you had Evernote for Windows and Evernote for Mac were completely different apps. And, you'd get one feature here and then 6 months later you'd get that same feature on the other platform. It was just awful.
It doesn't sync real well with your devices.
No.
That's something else I noticed that is a big old pain.
Well, it's interesting. I'd be interested to know, like, if you were really to sit down and look at, is Evernote the tool that is failing you, or is it the fact that you haven't invested any time in the updated, like, what Evernote expects of you as a user? Would that give it new life for you? Because Evernote,
because see, I looked at, and this is just our opinions, right? I think all of these things can work for people in different ways. I looked at Obsidian, I think.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that, I thought, okay, that isn't going to work for me because it's the way it felt so data based. Like it felt like just a
it's really I would say it's definitely not for you because it's a markdown editor. It is a markdown editor. If you don't know what markdown is, then it's not for you for sure. And I would never in a bazillion years have recommended Obsidian for you.
That's
knowing
good to
your
know.
Use case. Not a bazillion years.
That's really good to know.
I would recommend an app like Craft. Craft is a fantastic app. Along the lines of Notion, I like Notion. I think Craft is prettier. If you've heard of Notion, Notion is another app for this kind of thing. And I just think the development path at Craft is, and the design around which they give their app, I think it's just prettier, and it's a native app experience. So you have an app. It's not like a web page in a shell that looks like a native app. It's a native app, and that's important for a lot of Mac users. It's important for me. I want a native app on whatever platform I'm using. I like Craft a lot, and it does allow you business level collaboration. So you can set up a team and have people using it together. It also allows things like tables and kind of database structure for things if you want them. Some of the stuff we're doing in Coda, which is web-based, you can do in Craft. But I think generally Craft is a thing that might be worth looking at. I think moving out of Evernote is hard.
It is.
They try to say it's easy, but it's hard. And I think it's possible that you'd have to have the same kind of consideration about the value of your archive in Evernote, to really consider what is the value for moving. I've moved out of Evernote, and I can tell you 90% of the notes that I moved out of Evernote, I have not looked at, even though I have them all parsed and cleaned up and living in a new location. And so I can't say with 100% like great authority, yes, you should definitely move from Evernote. It might be great for you if you look at what Evernote is now, which is different than it was. If you're using it the same way you've always used it, it might be worth just, watching some of their newer videos and looking at what would it look like if you started using more, of their calendaring and task management and integrating notes, like your meeting notes with your calendar app and things like that. Like all of that can be in Evernote. They're putting some great attention. They have a new CEO. All of their application rewrites are done. Is it time to give Evernote a new shot? I mean, I'm not doing it personally. I'm happy where I am, but Evernote, it still exists. It's still out there. And they're still kicking. I'll put a link for Craft in the show notes because it is a really beautiful new rapidly developed app for note taking and document management. The other thing I like about both Craft and Notion and Coda and even Obsidian is you can use it as a publishing platform. So if you have a document inside of this thing that you want to share with the world, you can just type up an FAQ and hit publish, and it becomes its own public web page. And what you'll see with like Notion and Craft, like their help system, like their like search for support, it's all based on their own tool. So you're navigating a public web page that was published in one of those tools. I think that's really cool, and it gives me lots of ideas for ways I want to use this sort of publishing platform for giving information to our own audiences. I think it's really useful. Okay, that's Evernote. Oh my gosh, this list is so long. I don't know how we're going to do this. Okay,
It really is.
So we've talked about Calm and Outlook and things in OmniFocus and TimeSync. We've done all that. I can't believe it. We didn't talk about Text Expander in the episode 276 where we talked about text automation and ADHD. I did so much research around all these other apps, Phrase Expander, Phrase Express, Breevy, aText, Typinator, and Type It For Me, that I didn't actually include the only app that was installed on my system at the time, which was Text Expander.
I wonder why.
What am I don't know. I guess I write it off to the fact that it's an invisible tool. It is a tool that just sits in the background and is constantly running and working. And it's so in my fingers that I don't think about it. And when it comes to recommending, like, how can you automate text? It occurred to me just to sit down and do the research and not to look at what I was doing at the time. That's just, I call that growth.
Yes.
And so now I can tell you with authority, Text Expander is great. It's now for all platforms. It's not just a Mac. It is a service. And I still, as you, I hope know, I am a big believer in Text Expander. They are a sponsor of this show. And I love it so dearly.
I do.
Now, does that mean...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. Because I know you are so passionate about Text Expander.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we don't forget about Fantastical, because I've been hearing a lot of really good things about that.
Yeah, Fantastical is an app that a lot of people are using as their calendar if they're not using the default app, a Mac app calendar. It is a Mac application. It allows you to, originally it was just a replacement of your calendar, and it would sync with your default like Apple Calendar or iCal back in the early days. And it would just kind of show you in a little bit prettier interface what's going on. Now it is a complete system. It's a subscription service, and it does everything. The stuff I love about it, it now integrates scheduling. So you can say, hey, we need to have a meeting. Let's have that meeting and include a Zoom link. And the Zoom link needs to have the cameras on and participation and password. And is there a waiting room? No? Okay. And so you do all that, and it builds the Zoom link and attaches it based on your account. It integrates with Todoist, which is my work management system, so I can see all of my work in my calendar. It also has scheduling openings, so I can say, hey, we need to have a meeting together. Here are 4 openings in the next week that work for me. Pick one, and that will be locked in on my calendar, and the rest will go away. Or here's my published calendar. It essentially is Calendly. I was able to delete my Calendly account because that's built in to Fantastical now. And with just I spent 15 minutes creating my meeting templates, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, et cetera. And then I can just send links. I have those links now, ironically, in Text Expander. And I just, hit my snippet for Text Expander, and it puts links in emails and signatures and anywhere I need them to be. So Fantastical is a complete meeting like management system. I love it and have used it for years. It also now comes bundled with CardHop, which is a relationship-based alternative to contacts. It uses your contacts database and then shows you like it's just a really fast access to people.
Oh, interesting.
And, it shows you birthdays and all that stuff, but it also says like you can start adding relationships very easily, like, assistants and vice presidents, bosses, aunts, uncles, relationships. And then you can view them in kind of a family tree organization. So you can see how people are related in an organization or family. I like it a lot. They're doing some great work on it. So FlexiBits for looking at Fantastical and CardHop, great apps. Launchers. If you're familiar with Spotlight on the Mac, if you hit, I think the default is Command Space, it opens a little box right in the middle of your screen where you can start typing stuff, and it gives you essentially search results. Whether it's a local app on your computer or searching the web, it gives you search results right in there, and it's great. There are alternatives to that. There are 4 that we have talked about in the past and that I am using regularly. One of them, sometimes 2 of them, Alfred, Raycast, Launchbar, and Keepurina. Keepurina is Windows. The other 2 are Mac. And I don't know why, y'all. I don't know why, but this is one of those things that I just was not able to find a lot of alternatives that are similar to what we're doing with like Raycast and Alfred on the Mac. there wasn't a huge number of those alternatives. You should check out Keypurina for this kind of thing if you're looking at it. For Alfred, I've replaced the keyboard shortcut. I hit Command Space. I can launch apps. I can type just the first couple of letters of any app and hit return, and it launches the app. I can take actions. I can select a file on my desktop and trigger Alfred and move that file somewhere else with just a few keystrokes. So I can trigger workflows. So if there's something I need to do, like schedule a task that creates a meeting, I can create a custom workflow and trigger it with just a few keystrokes on my Mac. That's all stuff you can do with Alfred and Raycast and Launchbar. Incredibly, incredibly powerful and useful tools that are always it's hard to use a new Mac that doesn't have those for me because they're so ingrained as part of the operating system. I love them so much. Notes, we talked about Obsidian. I am a Markdown user, heavy Markdown user, and I love Obsidian for that. I also love Connected Notes. It's a wiki-style system, so I can create one note for the ADHD podcast and have a list of all of the episodes we've done, and when I click on that, it goes to a new note that has all the notes that we put into the episode, all my research and stuff. It's all connected. I love Obsidian. I use DevonThink as my PDF library, so that was part of Evernote where I just dump all the PDFs in, and then I'm able to search PDF. I think DevonThink is it's more expensive, but it is a research tool and it is great with PDFs. But really, we talked a little bit about the Apple Pencil and the iPad. When the iPad came out and the Apple Pencil came out, everything changed for my note-taking because now I was able to do the handwriting stuff, but do it in a way that was legible to me and storable in the cloud. So the two apps that we use heavily and recommend are Notability and GoodNotes. The real standout feature of Notability that is extraordinary is connected audio notes, where you can record using the built-in microphone while you're taking notes and go back and scrub through the audio to specific points in your notes. So you can say the speaker is talking or the teacher is lecturing, and you're drawing an image or something, and it's at that time that relates to it. You can jump back to exactly what the teacher was saying at the time you were sketching that slide or whatever you were doing. Incredibly useful. Also integrates with your camera, so you can hold up your iPad, take a quick picture of a slide, drop that slide right into your notes. It's incredibly powerful, and people are doing some extraordinary things. Students are doing extraordinary things in keeping their notes engaging and fun and accurate.
That's great.
As a result of all these features. Yeah, really useful. I just can't stress how important the Apple Pencil is to my workflow because, I largely don't use pen and paper anymore. If I need to write something down, it's with the Apple Pencil on the screen of my iPad. And it is, for me, it is that it triggers that part of my brain that is the same thing that you get when writing on paper. I like it a lot. Also, can't underscore the value for my work of my Apple Watch. Having this on my wrist is incredibly important because I can just lift my watch to my mouth and start talking to save myself voice memos and reminders and create new tasks and create new appointments and schedules. And when I'm driving in the car and need to do that, that's super useful. I can also say, hey, lady, send Nikki a voice message. And I can actually record a voice message of my voice and have it sent to you via messages. And that's really useful. I actually only...
You saying, hey, lady.
Yeah. Hey, lady. I actually just learned I could do that. I knew that we could use... text. You could send text messages where it dictates, but you could actually say send a voicemail to, and it sends your voice, an audio recording of your voice, which I think is so cool. Super useful. Okay. Last thing, and then I swear I'm shutting up because this has been way too long. I want to do or just a rapid fire because I'm often asked, like, what is the stuff that I'm using to do my job, like constantly running. And so I'm going to do this really, really quickly. For the professional stuff, producing podcasts and capturing audio, I edit everything in Logic Pro Studio. I tried Adobe. I can't wrap my head around Audition. It's very powerful. Also, it's the worst. It doesn't work the way my brain does. Final Cut. I'm a Final Cut guy. When everybody jumped to Premiere, I stayed on Final Cut because I love it so much. I would love to. When I was a boy, I would sleep with the manual. It would keep me comfortable.
Of course it
would. Rogue Amoeba Software is an incredible software company that makes just stuff for capturing audio. Audio Hijack is what we use. Both Nikki and I are using Audio Hijack right now to record our microphones for this podcast. Loopback is a virtual audio device, so I can create audio devices out of magic by routing sound from one application to another application and into this call and take this call and record it in a different place. Like, it is just an amazing tool that is incredibly difficult to explain. But if you're a hardcore audio head and you want to do more with audio on your Mac, check out Rogue Amoeba Software. The camera I'm using right now is the Opal C1 4K webcam. It is still, as far as I know, available for waiting list purchase. I guess the pandemic hurt their development, but it is a great webcam. It is the alternative camera that I used to use was the Logitech Brio Ultra HD, which I also love. Having a 4K camera on webcam is great, even though most services only use HD. I just think the quality and the lighting and everything is better. So if you spend a lot of time on video, upgrading your camera, putting some bucks into a camera is useful. Now, in my menu bar across the top, my sort of Mac system tray, Fantastical with Next Appointment, Card Hop, Clean Shot for capturing screenshots and quick video screen captures. Magnet is a window manager that I use to sling windows around with keyboard shortcuts. So like Control Option right arrow takes the current window I'm looking at and automatically resizes it to the right half of my screen, and Control Option left arrow will take another app and sling it over to the left side of my screen so I can organize my windows. It has a bazillion keyboard shortcuts, so you can put windows in top 5/6 of your screen. Like, it's crazy. I love Magnet. ExpressVPN for testing and making sure that I can deliver files around the world. Dropbox is running. SoundSource is another Rogue Amoeba superior sound control for the Mac. It essentially replaces the volume icon in the menu bar and allows me to do all kinds of crazy stuff with audio. Bartender. I have a lot more apps on my menu bar, but I use Bartender because Bartender will hide the apps that I want running in the background, but I don't want to look at all the time. Like Alfred. We talked about Alfred, my command space shortcut thing. Pastebot, the clipboard manager that I use. So when you do things like Command C to copy something, if I copy a URL with a certain, www. whatever, I can have Pastebot see that, replace it so that when I hit Command V, it places a new URL pattern in there. So you can do things, automate things with your copy and paste with a tool like Pastebot. I love it. Hazel, we talked about. Rocket. You know how in like Discord and Slack, if you hit colon and then start typing, it'll give you an emoji picker? Right. So Rocket gives me that everywhere in my system.
Oh.
So I can be writing an email and hit colon, man facepalm, and it'll allow me to insert the facepalming emoji, it also gives me statistics on which emoji I use the most. And it turns out that's the one. And second is shrug. So Backblaze for backing up. Clean My Mac is a service I use mostly for uninstalling apps completely to make sure all the little files get taken away that sometimes get missed. SetApp is a subscription service for little apps, which is great. So things like CleanShot X is a SetApp app. So I pay one subscription fee to SetApp, and then I can download any of the apps that are listed in SetApp. It's super useful. I have a script menu, text expander, Adobe Creative Cloud, Todoist, 1Password. We didn't even talk about 1Password today, but love 1Password.
Yeah.
I know. Or Todoist, Raycast, Stage Manager, and Parcel, which is a package tracking app that gives me notifications when packages are moving their way across the country. That's it. Oh my God, that was so long. I'm so sorry. But lots of apps, and I will put links to everything that I have dropped in this episode. Oh my God, this is going to take forever to build these show notes in the show notes.
Yes.
Thank you, Melissa, for doing all
Great
the pre-work.
stuff.
And thank you, everybody, for sitting through this. I hope there are some recommendations in here that are useful to one person. If it's useful for one person, I will call this a win.
Be useful for one person. The only thing I have to say is don't try everything at once.
Please don't try everything. That would be a mistake.
This is
but consider
years
this
of you figuring this out. So, yeah.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah.
Well, next week we're going to move into home health and fitness, and that will be shorter because I'm not very fit, but I do have some recommendations.
Awesome. Well, thank
you,
Pete.
so much.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. Thank you for your time and your attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to the conversation, we're heading over to the Show Talk channel in the Discord server, and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.